At 3:16 on a Monday morning, Claire Donovan broke a hospital rule she had followed for 7 years. She turned off a patient's monitor. Not silenced, not muted, turned off. The screen went black, the cardiac alarm disappeared, and for exactly 11 seconds, room 604 became completely silent. Dr. Nathan Cole stared at her. "Claire?" She didn't answer. The man on the bed was 71 years old, retired Marine, massive internal bleeding, 2 failed surgeries, blood pressure falling faster than the medication could support it. According to every number in the room, Colonel Marcus Vane had less than 5 minutes left. Claire leaned closer to him. His eyes were closed. His breathing came in shallow, broken pulls. She placed 2 fingers against the side of his neck. Then she whispered 3 words into his ear. Nobody in the room understood them, nobody except the dying man. Marcus Vane's eyes opened, not slowly, immediately. His right hand shot upward and grabbed Claire's wrist with enough force to make the IV line shake. Dr. Cole stepped forward. "Colonel, relax." Vane didn't look at him. He stared at Claire. His face had gone pale for an entirely different reason now. "You..." Claire said nothing. Vane's fingers tightened. "Where did you hear that?" Claire gently removed his hand from her wrist. "Sir, I need you to breathe." "Answer me." His voice was barely functional, but the command inside it was unmistakable. Claire looked toward the door, then back at him. "Not here." Vane's eyes moved around the room. Dr. Cole, 2 residents, an anesthesiologist, a respiratory therapist, 3 nurses. He looked back at Claire, and with what might have been the last strength left in his body, Colonel Marcus Vane gave an order nobody inside St. Joseph Medical Center expected. "Everyone out." Dr. Cole frowned. "Colonel, you're actively dying." Vane never looked away from Claire. "I know." The room became silent. Then Vane said something even stranger. "Lock the door." If you believe the quietest person in the room often carries the longest story, tell us where you're watching from today. Because before sunrise, a telephone inside the Pentagon would ring, a 12-year-old military file would be reopened, and Dr. Nathan Cole would discover that the nurse he'd worked beside for 7 years officially did not exist for 19 months of her life. But at 3:16 that morning, Claire Donovan was still just the night nurse in room 604. At least, that's what everyone believed. Claire had arrived at St. Joseph Medical Center 7 years earlier with an employment history so ordinary, nobody had ever found a reason to read it twice. Bachelor of Science in Nursing, Emergency Medicine Certification, Critical Care Experience. 3 hospitals, 2 states, no disciplinary history, no publications, no awards displayed beside her name. She worked nights because she preferred them. She volunteered for trauma cases because, according to Claire, mornings made her irritable and trauma patients rarely cared about personality. People liked her, but very few people knew her. There was a difference. She never attended staff birthday parties, never brought photographs to work, never talked about college, and every year between October 14th and October 18th, Claire disappeared from the schedule. No one knew where she went. 7 years, same 4 days. Once, charge nurse Molly Reed asked. Claire smiled. "Camping." Molly laughed. "You hate camping." "I've matured." The answer was ridiculous enough to end the conversation. Claire was good at answers like that, light enough to sound harmless, incomplete enough to remain technically true. Dr. Nathan Cole had worked beside her for almost 6 years. He had seen Claire stabilize a child after a school bus crash. He had watched her hold pressure on a gunshot wound for 32 minutes when the surgical team couldn't reach the emergency department. Once, during a citywide power failure, she manually ventilated an elderly patient for nearly an hour. Claire never panicked. Cole used to think that was experience. Then came room 604 and 3 words he couldn't understand. Marcus Vane had arrived at 10:42 the previous evening. His ambulance came without warning. That was the first unusual thing. The second was the man riding inside. Not a paramedic, not family. A tall man in a gray coat who refused to give his name. He remained beside Vane's stretcher until security stopped him at the trauma doors. "Sir, family waits outside." The man looked at the security officer. "I'm not family." "Then you'll definitely wait outside." Claire had been preparing an IV line when she heard the exchange. She looked toward the gray-coated man. For perhaps half a second, their eyes met. He looked away first. Claire stopped preparing the IV line. "What's wrong?" Molly asked. "Nothing." Claire continued working, but 5 minutes later she wrote something inside the small notebook she kept in her pocket. Gray coat, left hand, no watch. She underlined the final 2 words, twice. Marcus Vane's injuries made even less sense. According to the ambulance report, he'd fallen down 12 stairs at his home. The trauma suggested otherwise. 3 fractured ribs, lacerated spleen, severe bruising across the upper chest, a deep injury behind the left shoulder. Claire had seen stair falls, hundreds of them. Stairs were chaotic. They injured people without symmetry. Marcus Vane's injuries had a pattern. Claire noticed it before the first CT scan. She didn't say anything, not yet. At 11:08, Vane went to surgery. At 12:46, he came back. At 1:20, his blood pressure collapsed. At 1:39, surgeons reopened him. At 2:59, they admitted they were losing. By 3:10, Dr. Cole had called the family number listed in the chart. Disconnected. He tried the secondary number. It belonged to a grocery store in Virginia. That's when Claire walked toward the patient's belongings. Wallet, keys, a silver pen, 1 folded handkerchief. No mobile phone. She looked at Molly. "Where's his phone?" "Didn't come with one." "An ambulance picked him up at his home?" "That's what the report says." "Who called 911? Molly checked, then checked again. "It doesn't say." Claire became very still. "Claire?" She walked to the ambulance report. The document listed the responding unit, Medic 14. Claire picked up the hospital phone, called dispatch. "St. Joseph Trauma, I need a confirmation on a transport." She gave the case number. There was a pause, keyboard clicks. Then the dispatcher spoke. "Can you repeat the unit?" "Medic 14. Another pause. "Ma'am." "Yes." "Medic 14 hasn't been operational since Friday." Claire looked through the glass toward room 604. Marcus Vane lay dying under white hospital lights. "Are you sure?" "Engine failure. It's in maintenance." Claire slowly put down the phone. That's when Marcus Vane's monitor began alarming. Everyone ran, except Claire. For 2 seconds, she stood completely still. A fake ambulance number, a false emergency contact, injuries that didn't match the report, and a stranger in a gray coat who didn't wear a watch. Claire reached into her pocket, opened her notebook. Gray coat, left hand, no watch. Beneath it, she wrote 1 number. She stared at it, then crossed it out, wrote 18. Her face changed. "Claire." Dr. Cole's voice came from room 604. Claire closed the notebook, ran inside. Vane was crashing, blood pressure 48/20, heart rate 39. The residents moved around him, medication, fluids, commands, numbers, noise. Claire looked at Marcus Vane's face, and suddenly she understood why the injuries looked familiar. She had seen them before, 12 years ago, on a concrete floor, under red emergency lights, on 3 men whose names had never appeared in any newspaper. Claire walked toward the monitor. "Claire, what are you doing?" She switched it off. The screen went black. 11 seconds of silence. Then she leaned toward Vane and whispered the 3 words. The words were not English. They weren't a medical term. They weren't a military command Dr. Cole recognized. Marcus Vane's eyes opened, not slowly, immediately. His right hand shot upward and grabbed Claire's wrist with enough force to make the IV line shake. Dr. Cole stepped forward. "Colonel, relax." Vane didn't look at him. He stared at Claire. His face had gone pale for an entirely different reason now. "You?" Claire said nothing. Vane's fingers tightened. "Those words died 12 years ago. So did a lot of people." Marcus Vane's breathing stopped for half a second. "Who are you?" Claire looked toward the dark monitor, then back at him. You already know. No. His voice trembled. I knew everyone in that room. Claire said nothing. Vane's eyes widened, not recognition, something closer to horror. There were 18. Claire looked at him. 17. No. 18 entered. His breathing became faster. 17 bodies. Claire leaned closer, and one woman walked out. Vane stared at her. For a long time, the only sound in the room was oxygen moving through the nasal tubing. Then he whispered a name. Not Claire, a different name. A name nobody had used in 12 years. Claire's expression changed. Vane looked toward the locked door. Does anyone know? No. Military? No. Your hospital? No. Vane closed his eyes. For one brief moment, the 71-year-old Marine looked genuinely terrified. Claire had expected questions. Instead, he said, "You need to leave." She frowned. "You're bleeding internally." "I'm not talking about the hospital." His eyes opened. "You need to leave the city." Claire stared at him. "Why?" Vane looked toward the door again. "The man who brought me here." "The gray coat?" Vane froze. Claire saw the answer before he spoke. "You saw him?" "Yes." Vane's heart monitor was off, but Claire didn't need it to see his pulse climbing. "He saw you?" Claire hesitated. Their eyes had met. Half a second, maybe less. "Yes." Marcus Vane closed his eyes. "Then it's already too late." Outside room 604, Dr. Cole was arguing with hospital administration. Inside, Claire reached for the monitor. Before she could turn it back on, the hospital phone rang. Once, twice. Claire answered. "Room 604? Nobody spoke. She waited. Then a man's voice whispered, 17 bodies. Claire stopped breathing. The voice continued. "And now we know where the 18th went." The line disconnected. Claire slowly lowered the phone. Marcus Vane looked at her. Neither of them spoke. Then, somewhere 3 floors below, the hospital fire alarm activated. Claire looked toward the door. Vane whispered, "That's not a fire." The lights went out. The emergency lights came on 3 seconds later. Dim red strips along the floor. Battery-powered signs above the exits. A pale square of backup lighting over Marcus Vane's bed. Everything else disappeared into darkness. Claire Donovan didn't move. Neither did Vane. The fire alarm continued. 3 short pulses. Pause. 3 short pulses. Pause. Claire listened. Not to the alarm. Beyond it. Footsteps. Doors opening. A nurse shouting from the hallway. The mechanical click of magnetic locks releasing across the 6th floor. Then something else. A soft vibration against the window. Claire looked toward the glass. Vane saw her expression. "What?" She walked to the window. 6 floors below, emergency vehicles were already entering the hospital drive. Fire engines, 2 police cruisers, an ambulance. Exactly what should happen when a major hospital reported a fire. Claire studied them, then shook her head. "What is it?" Vane asked. "Too fast. The fire station is 4 blocks away." "Not that." Claire pointed toward the ambulance. Vane couldn't see it clearly from the bed. Claire could. The vehicle had entered behind the 2nd fire engine. White body, red stripe, emergency lights active. Nothing unusual, except the number painted near the rear door. 14. Claire stepped away from the window. Medic 14. Vane's face changed. The same ambulance unit dispatch had told her was sitting inside a maintenance garage. Claire turned toward the door. "How many people know you're here?" Vane stared at her. "Officially?" "That's not the question I asked." His silence answered. Claire walked back to the bed. "Marcus." He looked at her sharply. It was the first time she had used his first name. "How many?" 4. "Names?" "No." "Someone put you inside a false ambulance, created a false injury report, gave this hospital 2 useless emergency numbers, and brought you here with a man you are clearly afraid of." "I'm not afraid of him." Claire looked at Vane.
Your respiratory rate increased the moment I mentioned his coat. Vane said nothing. Fear is a vital sign, too. For the first time since waking, something almost resembling amusement crossed his face. It vanished quickly. 4 people knew. Names: Admiral Rourke. Claire waited. Thomas Vale. Her eyes narrowed. Vale? Yes. Who else? Vane looked toward the door. Me. That's 3. He closed his eyes. Claire leaned closer. Who is 4? Vane whispered the answer. Nightglass. Claire became completely still. The fire alarm continued screaming outside. Red light moved across her face. You said nobody knew, Vane said. They didn't. Then someone did. No. Claire shook her head slowly. Someone knew the name. Vane looked at her. What's the difference? Claire's eyes moved toward the telephone. A very big one. Outside room 604, Dr. Nathan Cole had stopped arguing with hospital administration. The power failure had changed priorities. Nurses moved patients away from elevators. Respiratory therapists checked ventilator batteries. Security officers directed visitors toward stairwells. Rebecca Hale stood at the trauma desk with 2 emergency radios. Generator 2 is online. Cole looked toward room 604. And Claire? Still inside. Open the door. Rebecca pressed the release. Nothing. She tried again. Electronic locks aren't responding. Cole grabbed the handle. Locked. Get security. Rebecca hesitated. Dr. Cole. What? She pointed toward the observation glass. The room was dim, but visible. Claire stood beside Vane's bed. She wasn't checking his IV. She wasn't examining his airway. She was standing perfectly still, listening to the fire alarm. Rebecca frowned. Why isn't she moving? Cole didn't answer. Then Claire lifted one hand. 3 fingers. Pause. 1 finger. Pause. 2 fingers. Rebecca looked at Cole. What is she doing? Cole stared through the glass. I have no idea. 3. 1. 2. Claire repeated the sequence. Across the corridor, Admiral Samuel Rourke saw her and stopped walking. His face lost every trace of color. Everybody away from that door. Cole turned. What? Rourke moved faster. Get everyone away from room 604. Admiral, my patient is inside. Doctor. Rourke's voice changed. Move. Something in it ended the argument. Rebecca stepped back. Cole didn't. Tell me what's happening. Rourke stared through the glass. 3, 1, 2. She's counting. I could see that. No. Rourke looked at him. She's telling us how many people are coming. Coming where? Rourke's answer was almost lost beneath the alarm. Here. Claire had counted 6 sets of footsteps, 3 approaching from the west stairwell, 1 from the main corridor, 2 somewhere below. The fire alarm made direction difficult. That was the point. Noise wasn't always chaos. Sometimes noise was camouflage. She looked at Vane. Can you stand? He actually laughed. It became a cough. Blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. Does that answer your question? Unfortunately, Claire checked his blood pressure manually. Low. Too low. The surgery hadn't fixed the problem. Whatever was bleeding inside him was still bleeding. You're not surviving another move. Vane looked at her. I wasn't supposed to survive the first. Claire paused. What? The door handle moved. Once. Slowly. Someone outside tested it. Claire looked toward the glass. The hallway beyond appeared empty. The handle moved again. Vane whispered. Claire. She turned. The gray coat. What about him? His name is Elias Ward. Claire waited. Vane's voice weakened. He was there. 12 years ago? Yes. In the room? No. Then where? Vane swallowed. On the other side of the door. Claire felt something cold move through her chest. The concrete room, red emergency lights, 18 people, a sealed door, 3 words, 17 bodies. She had spent 12 years believing the door had been locked because the facility had entered automatic containment. That was what the report said. That was what Rourke had told her. That was what she built an entire second life around believing. Claire looked at Vane. "You're saying Ward locked it?" Vane didn't answer. She stepped closer. "Marcus." His eyes filled with something Claire had not expected. Shame. He didn't just lock it. The fire alarm stopped. Instantly. The sudden silence was enormous. Vane whispered. "He chose who stayed inside." A metallic sound came from the door. Claire turned. Someone outside was working on the lock, not forcing it, opening it. 3 floors below, Rebecca ran into the blood bank. Emergency lights painted the room in dull red. A technician stood beside the refrigerator. "I need 4 units of O-negative. Patient ID? Marcus Vane, room 604. The technician typed. "No active order. Dr. Cole ordered emergency release." "I'm not seeing it." Rebecca put both hands on the counter. "We are on backup power. Your system is lagging." "I still need authorization." Rebecca remembered Claire's words. "Count them yourself." She looked toward the refrigerator. "How many O-negatives do you have?" The technician frowned. 20. "Open it." "What?" "Open the refrigerator." "Ma'am." "Please." The technician sighed. Unlocked the refrigerator. Rebecca counted. 1, 2, 3. She reached the final row. 19. Her stomach tightened. "The system says 20. Yes. There are 19. The technician looked, counted again. His expression changed. "That's impossible." Rebecca stared at the empty shelf.
Claire already knew. Knew what? Rebecca didn't answer. She reached for the blood release form, then noticed something beneath the empty shelf, a tiny, clear plastic cap. She picked it up. The technician frowned. "What's that?" Rebecca had seen hundreds of them. Needle cap. Inside the blood refrigerator? She looked at him. "Lock this room." The technician laughed nervously. "What?" "Lock the door." Rebecca reached for the wall phone. No signal. She tried her radio. Static. Then someone knocked. 3 times. Rebecca and the technician looked toward the door. "Blood bank," a man's voice called. "Emergency pickup." Rebecca walked closer. "Which patient?" Silence. Then, room 604. Rebecca stopped. She had not entered the blood request. Neither had the technician. The man knocked again. "Open the door!" Rebecca slowly stepped backward. On the 6th floor, Admiral Rourke grabbed Cole's arm. "Where is your blood bank?" "3rd floor." "Why?" Rourke reached inside his coat. Cole saw the weapon before Rourke fully removed it. His eyes widened. "You brought a gun into my hospital?" Rourke ignored him. He looked at 2 Navy officers. "3rd floor." Both moved immediately. Cole stepped in front of Rourke. "No." Rourke stared at him. "You don't understand what's happening." "You're right." Cole's voice hardened. "So explain it." Rourke looked through the glass. Claire had moved between Vane and the door. The lock mechanism clicked again. 10 years ago, the United States government removed Claire Donovan from every operational record connected to a program called Nightglass. Cole said nothing. Rourke continued. "Her identity was buried because 17 people died protecting information that was never supposed to leave a room." "What information?" "I don't know." Cole laughed once, disbelieving. "You're an admiral." "I wasn't cleared." That answer silenced him. Rourke looked through the glass. Claire had moved between Vane and the door. Only 3 people were believed to know what happened inside. Claire, 1. Vane, 2. And 3? Rourke slowly looked at Cole. "We buried number 3 12 years ago." The lock clicked. The door opened 2 inches. Claire moved. Fast. She slammed her shoulder into the door. A man's hand appeared through the gap. Claire twisted the wrist. A small black object hit the floor. Not a gun, a syringe. Rourke saw it. His expression changed. "Open the door." Security rushed forward. The electronic system remained dead. Inside, Claire kicked the syringe beneath the bed. The hand disappeared. Footsteps ran. Rourke turned toward the west stairwell. "Seal the hospital." A security officer stared at him. "We have 700 people inside." "Then 700 people stay inside." Cole stepped forward. "You can't lock down an entire hospital." Rourke looked at him. "Doctor." His voice was quiet. "Someone just tried to finish killing your patient." He pointed toward Claire.
And I think the person they're actually here for is your nurse. Inside room 604, Marcus Vane was fading. Claire turned the monitor back on. Blood pressure 39/20. Heart rate 48. Marcus. His eyes barely opened. Stay with me. He smiled weakly. You always were terrible at letting people leave. Claire prepared medication. Who is Elias Ward working for? Vane didn't answer. Marcus. His eyes moved toward her. Why were there 18 people in that room? Silence. Why did 17 die? Vane's lips moved. Claire leaned closer. What? The count. His voice disappeared. Claire lowered her ear. Vane whispered. Was wrong. Claire froze. What do you mean? 17 bodies. I know. No. Vane's fingers closed weakly around her wrist. You never counted yourself. Claire stared at him. Vane forced the next words through failing breath. There were 19. The monitor alarm accelerated. Claire shook her head. No, 18 entered. Vane's eyes began to close. 1. His voice broke. Was already inside. The monitor screamed. Marcus Vane went into cardiac arrest. Claire immediately started compressions. Marcus! Outside, Cole heard the alarm. She's losing him! Rourke stared through the glass. Claire pressed down again. Then the emergency power returned. Every light in the corridor flashed white. The electronic lock released. Cole opened the door. The team rushed inside. Get up, epinephrine! Claire continued compressions. Rebecca appeared at the end of the hallway carrying a blood cooler. Claire! Claire looked up. Rebecca's face was pale. I found the missing unit. Claire stopped for half a second. Where? Rebecca held up a clear evidence bag. Inside was an empty blood pouch. The label read, Marcus Vane. Claire stared. Rebecca swallowed. It was used 3 hours before he arrived at this hospital. Nobody spoke. Not Cole, not Rourke, not Claire. Then Admiral Rourke slowly turned toward Vane's chart. 3 hours before? Rebecca nodded. Claire looked at the dying man beneath her hands, then at the ambulance report, then at the blood bag. The pieces shifted. A false ambulance, a patient who had already received hospital blood before reaching the hospital, a 19th person inside a room that officially held 18. Claire's face changed. Stop. Cole looked at her. What? Claire stopped compressions. Claire! She reached toward Vane's neck, pressed 2 fingers against a point beneath his jaw, then another. Her eyes widened. He's not in cardiac arrest. Cole stared at the monitor. There's no pulse. Not where you're looking. She pulled down Vane's gown and saw it. A tiny surgical scar beneath his left clavicle. Fresh. Claire looked at Rourke. This man didn't come here because he was attacked. She stared at the scar. He came after a procedure. What procedure? Cole asked. Claire's eyes remained on Marcus Vane. A procedure designed to make every monitor in this hospital believe he was dying. Rourke stepped backward. Why? Claire looked toward the hallway, toward the elevators, toward hundreds of patients and employees now trapped inside the building. Then she understood. He needed the hospital locked down. Rourke's face changed. Claire whispered, "We didn't trap them in here with us." She looked at Marcus Vane. "We trapped ourselves in here with them." And from somewhere inside the hospital, a phone began to ring. Not one phone, every phone, at the same time. Every phone inside St. Joseph Medical Center rang at the same time. 712 desk phones, 43 wall phones, 16 emergency handsets, the phone beside Marcus Vane's bed. All of them. One ring. Pause. Second ring. Pause. Third. Nobody inside room 604 moved. Dr. Nathan Cole stared at the phone mounted beside the bed. Rebecca Hale stared at the cordless handset clipped to her scrub pocket. Admiral Samuel Rourke slowly lowered the weapon in his hand. The phones rang a 4th time. Claire Donovan looked at Marcus Vane. He lay motionless beneath her hands. The cardiac monitor still showed no meaningful rhythm, but now Claire knew the monitor was lying, or more accurately, someone had taught it to lie. "Don't answer," Rourke said. Claire looked at him. "Why?" "I don't know." "Then that's not a reason." She reached for the phone. Rourke stepped forward. Night glass. Claire froze, not because of the name, because of the way he said it. A warning, the same tone he'd used 12 years earlier. Claire picked up the receiver. Room 604. For 3 seconds, nothing. Then, breathing. Slow, controlled. A man's voice followed. October 17. Claire's grip tightened. Across the room, Rourke saw her expression change. What did he say? Claire didn't answer. The voice continued. 02:14. Her eyes moved toward the wall clock. 4:07 a.m. Red corridor. Claire closed her eyes. The room disappeared. Not literally, but for one brief second, the hospital was gone. The smell of antiseptic became concrete dust. The white ceiling became red emergency lights. The steady ventilator became the low mechanical hum of an underground filtration system. Claire opened her eyes. The voice whispered one final sentence. "You left something behind." The line disconnected. Every phone in the hospital stopped ringing at exactly the same moment. The silence afterward felt unnatural. Cole stepped closer. What did he say? Claire replaced the receiver. Nothing useful. Rourke laughed once. There was no humor in it. "You've always been a terrible liar." Claire looked at him. "And you've always asked questions you already knew the answer to." Rebecca glanced between them. "Can somebody please remember that the rest of us are in the room?" Neither responded. Cole pointed toward Vane. "Start with him." Claire looked down. "His heart is beating. The monitor says otherwise. The monitor is being manipulated." "How?" Claire pulled the gown farther away from Vane's chest. The small incision beneath his left clavicle was barely 2 centimeters long. Clean edges, recent sutures, no bruising, no inflammation. Whoever had performed the procedure knew exactly what they were doing. Cole leaned closer. Implanted device? Maybe. Pacemaker? No. Loop recorder? Claire shook her head. Too deep. Cole reached for an ultrasound probe. Claire caught his wrist. "Wait." He looked at Claire. "What?" She stared at the incision. Something about it bothered her. Not the location, the angle. The cut slanted slightly downward toward the sternum. Claire had seen that angle before. Once, 12 years earlier. She stepped backward. Rourke noticed. What? Claire looked at Rourke. Who designed the night glass biometric system? Rourke's face became still. Cole frowned. The what? Claire ignored him. Sam. Rourke hesitated, then answered. Dr. Adrian Sayer. Where is he? Dead. When? 12 years ago. Claire's eyes narrowed. Body? Rourke didn't answer. Did you see his body? No. Who identified him? Claire. Who identified him? Rourke's jaw tightened. Marcus Vane. Everyone looked toward the man on the bed. Marcus Vane remained motionless. Claire stared at him. 17 bodies. 18 entered. One was already inside, and Marcus Vane had identified at least one of the dead. Her mind began moving faster, not remembering, rebuilding. Get me a magnet, Claire said. Cole blinked. What? A strong surgical magnet. Why? Because if I'm right, the device beneath his clavicle has a fail-safe. And if you're wrong, Claire looked at the flat cardiac line. Then we continue pretending he's dead. Rebecca left immediately. The hospital lockdown began at 4:09 a.m. Security sealed every exterior entrance. Police units surrounded the emergency department. Hospital administrators moved into the disaster command room on the 2nd floor. No patients were discharged. No visitors were allowed to leave. No ambulances entered. For the first time in the hospital's 63-year history, St. Joseph became an island, and nobody knew who was trapped inside with them. On the 3rd floor, 2 Navy officers reached the blood bank. The door was locked. One officer knocked. United States Navy. Open the door. No answer. He knocked again. Nothing. The second officer looked through the narrow glass panel. The room appeared empty. Rebecca said the technician was inside. Maybe he evacuated. During lockdown? The first officer reached for his radio. Static. Then he noticed something else. A shoe, barely visible behind the counter. He stepped back. Get security. The second officer was already moving. Inside the blood bank, a single drop of blood rolled slowly across the white tile floor. It did not come from a storage bag. Rebecca returned to room 604 carrying a sealed surgical magnet. Claire took it. Cole watched her. You want to explain before you do something else that gets all of us fired? Claire almost smiled. You think employment is our biggest problem? I liked you better yesterday. No, you didn't. Fair. She placed the magnet several inches above Vane's incision. Nothing happened. She moved it closer. The cardiac monitor flickered. Cole stopped breathing. The flat line disappeared. For half a second, a normal rhythm appeared, then vanished. Rebecca whispered, "Do it again." Claire repositioned the magnet. The cardiac monitor flickered. Normal rhythm, 72 beats per minute. Then flat. Cole stared. That's impossible. Claire shook her head. No, it's engineering. She pressed the magnet directly over the incision. The cardiac alarm changed. A steady heartbeat appeared. 74. Blood pressure 96/61. Oxygen saturation 93. Marcus Vane opened his eyes. Rebecca stepped backward. Cole stared at him. You. Vane smiled weakly. Doctor. Cole looked at Claire, then back at Vane. I performed 2 surgeries on you. I know. You were bleeding. Yes. You nearly died. Also, yes. Cole's voice rose. Then what the hell is happening? Vane looked at Claire. She figured it out. Claire didn't return the smile. Who implanted the device? Vane's expression changed. Claire? Who? He looked toward Rourke. The Admiral stepped closer. Marcus. Vane closed his eyes. I'm tired. Claire removed the magnet. The instant monitor returned to a flat line. Rebecca gasped. Claire placed the magnet back. Heartbeat. She removed it. Flat. Back. Heartbeat. Claire leaned closer. I can do this all morning. Vane opened his eyes. You always were stubborn. Who implanted it? Silence. Claire lowered her voice. Was it Sayer? Marcus Vane stopped smiling. That was enough. Rourke whispered, Jesus Christ. Cole looked around. Would somebody like to tell me who Sayer is? Rourke walked toward the window. 12 years ago, Dr. Adrian Sayer developed a biometric masking system. For what? Covert extraction. Cole frowned. Rourke continued. The idea was simple. Simple? Rebecca said. Rourke ignored her. The idea was if an operative was captured and placed under medical observation, the device could alter electrical signals sent to external monitoring equipment, make a living person look dead. Cole said. For approximately 90 seconds, Claire looked at Vane. This has been running for hours. Rourke nodded. Then someone improved it. Cole stared at the monitor. And you buried this technology? We destroyed it. Claire looked at Rourke. No. Her voice was quiet. You destroyed what Sayer gave you. Rourke turned. Claire continued. You never knew whether he kept another version. Vane closed his eyes. Claire looked down at him. You knew. No response. You knew Sayer survived. Not at first. Rourke moved toward the bed. How long? Vane remained silent. How long, Marcus? 8 years. Rourke stepped backward. 8 years. The number landed harder than shouting. You knew for 8 years? I suspected. You signed his death confirmation. I signed what I was shown. Claire watched both men. Something didn't fit. Vane was hiding information.
Rourke was angry, but anger wasn't the same as surprise. She looked at the Admiral. When did you know? Rourke stared at her. Rebecca frowned. What no? Claire didn't look away. That Sayer might be alive.
Rourke said nothing. Claire nodded slowly. There it is. Cole looked between them. What? His left hand. Rourke glanced down. Claire continued. Since you arrived, you've touched your left thumb to your index finger every time Sayer's name comes up. Rourke stopped moving. Rebecca looked at Claire. You notice that? Claire's expression remained flat. I notice everything when I'm scared. The admission silenced the room. Rourke slowly lowered his hand. Claire stepped closer. You knew. I had reports. How long? 6 months. Vane opened his eyes. You told me 3. Rourke looked at him. And you told me you weren't involved. The two old men stared at each other. Claire suddenly understood. Neither trusted the other. Maybe they never had. That's why I'm here, she said. Rourke looked at her. Claire continued. Not Vane, not the hospital. Me. Vane tried to sit up. Claire! You both knew Sayer was alive. Silence. You both knew someone was looking for Nightglass. Neither denied it. Claire laughed quietly. The sound carried no amusement. So which one of you used me as bait? The door opened. A security officer entered. His face was pale. Dr. Cole? Cole turned. What happened? We have a casualty in the blood bank. Rebecca's hand flew to her mouth. The technician? The officer nodded. Alive? A pause. No. Rebecca closed her eyes. Claire looked at Vane, then Rourke. A man was dead. Whatever game they'd brought into her hospital had crossed a line. Claire removed the magnet from Vane's chest. The monitor went flat. Claire. Claire handed him the magnet. Keep pressure over the device. Where are you going? Blood bank. Rourke stepped into her path. No. Claire stopped. Move. Claire, if Sayer is inside this hospital, then I want to see what he left. He killed 17 people. Claire's face hardened. No. She looked directly at Rourke. Apparently, I don't know who killed 17 people. The Admiral said nothing. Claire walked past him. The third-floor blood bank smelled of disinfectant and iron. Police officers stood outside. Claire ducked beneath the security tape before anyone could stop her. The technician lay behind the counter, male, mid-40s. Claire had seen him twice before. She didn't know his name. That bothered her more than she expected. A detective approached. Ma'am, you can't be in here. Claire looked at the body. How did he die? I'm not discussing. Single puncture behind the left ear? The detective stopped. Claire turned toward him. Am I right? He studied her. Who are you? She looked back at the body. Someone who's seen it before. Claire crouched. The technician's right hand was closed. The detective moved closer. Don't touch him. I won't. She looked at the fingers. Something white showed between them. Paper. Open his hand. We need forensics. Then call them faster. The detective stared at her. Claire stared back. He sighed, put on gloves, carefully opened the technician's fingers. A small strip of thermal printer paper fell onto the floor. 3 numbers were printed across it. 604. Room 604. Rebecca, standing at the doorway, whispered, Marcus. Claire shook her head. No. She looked toward the blood refrigerator. Where's the missing unit? The detective pointed towards the evidence bag. Empty. Did you test it? For what? Claire stood. Anything except blood. The detective frowned. Claire walked toward the refrigerator. 19 units. 1 empty slot. She studied the shelf, then looked at the cooling vent above it. Small, metal, 4 screws. 1 screw was newer than the others. Claire reached toward it, stopped before touching. Get a camera. The detective stared. Why? Because someone opened that vent. A crime scene photographer stepped forward. Claire waited. Photographs, measurements. Then the detective removed the vent cover. Inside was a mobile phone, old, black, no brand markings. The screen illuminated automatically. One video file. No contacts, no messages, no network signal. The detective placed the phone inside an evidence sleeve. Claire looked at the screen. The video file was titled 18. Rebecca whispered, "Don't." Claire pressed play through the plastic. The screen showed a room, concrete walls, red emergency lights. Claire stopped breathing. October 17th, 12 years earlier. The room. Her room. The camera angle came from high in one corner. Claire had never known a camera existed. Figures moved through red light. 18 people. She saw herself, younger, shorter hair, medical pack across her back. She saw Vane, Rourke, Thomas Vale, faces she had spent 12 years trying not to remember. The video had no sound. The timestamp moved. 0211, 0212, 0213. Claire watched herself walk toward the sealed door. Then, at 0214, the image flickered. One frame, maybe two. A figure appeared behind Claire, already inside the room. Claire paused the video. Rebecca leaned closer. "Who's that?" The image was blurred. A man, white medical coat. Claire zoomed in. The face remained hidden, but his left wrist was visible. No watch. Claire whispered, "Ward." The gray-coated man, the man from the false ambulance. Rebecca looked at her. "You know him?" "No." Claire stared at the screen. The video suddenly resumed itself. Claire stepped back. "I didn't touch it." The timestamp jumped. 0214, 0243, 29 minutes missing. Then the image returned. Bodies covered the floor. 17. Claire stood alone by the door, covered in blood. Her younger self looked directly toward the hidden camera, then spoke 3 words. The video had no sound, but Claire knew them, the same words she'd whispered to Marcus Vane. The image froze. Text appeared across the screen. "You remember the words." A second line appeared. "You don't remember what they opened." Claire stared. Rebecca whispered, "Claire." A third line appeared. "Ask Rourke why he removed 29 minutes." The screen went black. Claire didn't move. Nobody in the blood bank spoke. Then the hospital intercom clicked. Static. A man's voice filled every corridor. Calm, almost gentle. "Good morning, Claire." She looked toward the ceiling. The voice continued. "I've waited 12 years to ask you one question." Claire felt pale. "Do you want your 29 minutes back?" Every elevator in the hospital opened at the same time. Claire slowly turned toward the blood bank door. From somewhere inside the 6th floor corridor, a nurse began screaming. The scream came from the 6th floor. One sharp cry, then silence. Claire Donovan was already moving. She left the blood bank before the detective could stop her. Rebecca followed. "Claire!" Claire hit the stairwell door. "Stay here." "No!" "Rebecca, you can use the terrifying voice all you want. I'm still coming." Claire looked at her for half a second, then continued up the stairs. 3rd floor, 4th, 5th. Her lungs began to burn. The hospital intercom remained silent now. No more voice, no more questions. Only Claire's footsteps and Rebecca struggling to keep pace behind her. At the 6th floor landing, Claire stopped. Rebecca nearly ran into her. "What?" Claire raised one finger. "Quiet." She listened. Nothing. That was the problem. The 6th floor had 32 occupied rooms, 6 nurses, 2 respiratory therapists, 3 residents, at least 14 family members. There should have been monitors, call bells, footsteps, voices. Instead, nothing. Claire slowly opened the stairwell door. The corridor beyond was empty. Every patient door was closed. Every monitor at the central nurses' station showed the same screen. Black. In the center of each display, one number, 29 o'clock. Rebecca whispered, "What is that?" Claire stared at the countdown, 28:09:59, 28:09:58, 28:09:57. It's a clock. Counting to what? Claire looked down the hallway. I don't think we're supposed to know yet. Then Claire saw the nurse, 20 feet away, sitting on the floor beside room 611. Her name was Emily Parker, 24 years old, 8 months out of nursing school. Claire had corrected her medication chart 3 nights earlier. Emily's back was pressed against the wall. Both hands covered her mouth. Her eyes were fixed on the room beside her. Claire approached slowly. "Emily?" No response. Claire crouched. "Emily, look at me." The young nurse's eyes moved. "Claire, I'm here." Her breathing accelerated. Claire placed a hand on her shoulder. "Slow down. In through your nose. Out." Emily tried, failed, tried again. "What happened?" Emily pointed toward room 611. "He walked out." Claire looked at the closed door. "Who?" "The patient." "Which patient?" Her lips trembled. "Mr. Hall." Rebecca reached the nurse's station. She opened the patient list. Benjamin Hall, 68, 3 days post-stroke. Claire looked at Emily. "He walked?" "Yes." "He can't walk." "I know." "He has left-sided paralysis." "I know." "Then what did you see?" Emily stared at Claire. "He stood beside my desk and asked me where night glass was." Claire became still. Rebecca slowly looked up from the computer. Emily continued, "I thought he was confused. I called his name. He looked at me and," her voice broke, "smiled." Claire stood. "Where is he now?" Emily pointed toward room 604. Claire turned. Marcus Vane. The room at the end of the corridor. She started walking. Rebecca grabbed her arm. "Wait." Claire looked down at Rebecca's hand. Rebecca released her. "Sorry," then lowered her voice. "What if that's what he wants?" "It probably is." "And you're still going?" "Yes." "Why?" Claire looked at room 604. "Because 12 years ago, I spent 29 minutes in a room I can't remember." She glanced at the countdown. 27:41. And somebody inside this hospital knows why. Dr. Nathan Cole was standing outside room 604, alone. Claire slowed. "Where's Rourke?" Cole looked at her. "I was hoping you knew." "Marcus?" "Inside." "Alone?" Cole hesitated. Claire stopped. "Nathan." "Admiral Rourke ordered everyone out." "When?" 3 minutes ago. And then he went into the stairwell. "Which stairwell?" "East." Claire looked toward Rebecca. "Call security." The desk phone didn't work. Rebecca reached for her radio. Static. Claire looked through the observation glass. Marcus Vane lay in bed. The magnet remained secured against his chest with medical tape. The monitor displayed a normal heartbeat, 76, steady, too steady. Claire opened the door. "Marcus?" No response. She approached. "Marcus?" His eyes remained closed. Claire touched his shoulder. The skin was cold. She pulled the blanket away. Dr. Cole stepped closer. "What are you doing?" Claire reached underneath Vane's gown. Her hand stopped. "No." Cole looked down. The implanted device was gone. The incision beneath Vane's clavicle had been reopened. A thin line of blood ran across his chest. Cole checked the carotid pulse. Nothing. He immediately reached for the crash button. Claire caught his hand. "Don't." "Claire, he's pulseless. Look at his pupils." Cole did, then stopped, fixed, dilated. He checked Vane's neck again. His expression changed. "How long?" Claire touched the skin beneath Vane's jaw. "At least 30 minutes. Rebecca stared at the monitor, but we were talking to him downstairs. Claire looked at the green rhythm. 76 beats per minute. Perfect. Not his heartbeat.
Cole slowly turned toward the device taped to Vane's chest.
Claire removed the magnet. The monitor kept beating, 76, no change. She pulled the tape away. Beneath it was a small black transmitter, no larger than a coin. Cole whispered, "Someone replaced the device." Claire looked at Marcus Vane. The man who had opened his eyes, grabbed her wrist, remembered the 3 words, warned her about Elias Ward. The man she'd performed compressions on, argued with, questioned. Claire stood. Rebecca saw her face. What? Claire shook her head. That wasn't Marcus. Nobody spoke. Cole looked at the body. "Claire, you operated on him." "No. You were with him for hours." "I was with a man who called himself Marcus Vane." "But the patient," Claire turned toward him, "the real Marcus Vane has been dead for at least 30 minutes. Cole stared. "Then who was in this bed?" Claire looked at the open incision. The missing device. The fake cardiac signal. She remembered the gray coat, the false ambulance, the scar beneath the clavicle. Then, the video. One person already inside the room, white medical coat. 29 missing minutes. Claire whispered the name. Sayer. Rebecca frowned. Adrian Sayer? Claire looked toward the empty hallway. He didn't survive 12 years ago. Cole shook his head. Rourke say he died? No. Claire's voice became quieter. Rourke said Marcus identified the body. Everyone looked at the dead man, Marcus Vane, the only man who had officially identified Adrian Sayer. Rebecca understood first. He lied. Claire nodded. Or he was never asked. The monitor continued its artificial heartbeat. 76. 76. 76. Then it stopped. The screen went black. One sentence appeared. Now you're asking the right question. Claire stared at it. A second sentence appeared. 27 minutes remain. The screen died. Admiral Samuel Rourke stood inside the east stairwell between the 8th and 9th floors. His phone vibrated. No caller identification. He answered. You said she wouldn't remember, a man's voice replied. She doesn't. You said she's getting close. Claire was always good at getting close. Rourke looked down the empty stairs. This wasn't the agreement. The laugh laughed softly. Samuel, we haven't had an agreement in 12 years. Rourke tightened his grip on the phone. You leave her out of this. Interesting. What? You didn't say that 12 years ago. Rourke closed his eyes. The voice continued. 27 minutes. Then she gets the truth. The call ended. Rourke stood alone. For several seconds he didn't move. Then he removed his Navy identification from his coat, looked at it, and dropped it into a trash bin. He started down the stairs. Claire found Emily's patient in the hospital chapel. Benjamin Hall sat in the front pew, alone. Claire stopped at the entrance. Rebecca whispered, He really is walking. Benjamin's left leg had been documented as almost completely paralyzed. Now he sat upright, both feet flat against the floor. Claire approached. Mr. Hall? He didn't turn. That's not my name. Claire stopped. Then what is? The man looked toward the large wooden cross mounted above the altar. Names were always your weakness. Claire's pulse slowed. Do I know you? No. Do you know me? He smiled. Better than you do. Rebecca moved closer. Claire subtly raised one hand. Stay back. Benjamin noticed. Still protecting the room. What do you want? Nothing. You asked for night glass. I needed to know if the name still moved you. Claire stared at him. And it does. Benjamin finally turned. His eyes were clear. No confusion. No sign of a recent stroke. Claire looked at his left hand. No tremor. She understood. Your medical records are false. So were yours. Who are you? Benjamin smiled. Number 19. Claire's chest tightened. He stood. Rebecca took a step backward. Claire didn't. You were inside. Yes. October 17th? Yes. At 2:14? His smile disappeared. Earlier. Claire looked at him. How much earlier? 6 months. The answer made no sense. Benjamin stepped into the aisle. Night glass wasn't a mission, Claire. It was a study. Claire shook her head. No. You were sent to retrieve a biometric system. Yes. You were told Sayer designed it. He did. You were told the facility had been compromised. It had. You were told 18 people entered. They did. Benjamin looked straight into her eyes. Claire, you were in that facility 6 months before any of them arrived. The chapel seemed to shrink. Rebecca looked at Claire. Claire's expression remained blank. That's impossible. Benjamin reached inside his hospital gown. Rebecca gasped. Claire's body tensed, but he removed only a photograph. He held it out. Claire didn't take it. Look. She did. A laboratory, white walls, medical equipment, 3 people standing beside a steel examination table. Adrian Sayer, a younger Marcus Vane, and a woman, Claire. Her hair was shorter. A white hospital gown covered her body. A black sensor had been attached beneath her left clavicle. Claire touched the same place on her own chest. Without thinking, Benjamin watched. Now you feel it. Claire pulled the collar of her scrub top aside. A scar. Tiny. Faded. She had told herself for 12 years it came from shrapnel. The report said shrapnel. The photograph said otherwise. Claire finally took the picture. Who took this? I did. She looked at Benjamin. Who are you? My name was Daniel Krell. Rourke's voice came from behind them. Claire turned. The Admiral stood at the chapel entrance. No identification, no weapon visible. His face looked older than it had 20 minutes ago. Claire held up the photograph. Tell me he's lying. Rourke said nothing. Sam. Silence. Tell me. Rourke lowered his eyes. Claire laughed. One short breath, then another. Not amusement. Something breaking quietly. I asked you. Rourke looked at her. I know. After I woke up, I asked you why I couldn't remember. I know. You said trauma. I know. You said survivor's guilt. I know. You sat beside my hospital bed. Her voice cracked for the first time. And told me memory sometimes protects us. Rourke's eyes filled. It does. Claire stepped toward Rourke. What did you remove? Rebecca became completely still. Rourke looked at Daniel Krell, then back at Claire. We didn't remove 29 minutes. Claire stared. Rourke continued. We removed 6 months. The countdown monitors throughout the hospital changed. 1900. Claire looked toward the hospital TV. It turned on itself. Static, then video. Claire. The laboratory. The younger Claire looked directly into the camera. Not frightened, not restrained. She was wearing a military uniform. She spoke clearly. Night Glass Trial 17. Claire stepped closer to the TV. Her recorded self continued. Subject Donovan. Final voluntary consent confirmed. Claire whispered. Voluntary? Rourke closed his eyes. On screen, Claire lay down on the table. Adrian Sayer approached. The video cut. New text appeared.
You weren't their prisoner. Claire stared. Another line. You were Sayer's partner. Rebecca looked at Claire. Claire couldn't move. The hospital intercom activated again. Elias Ward's voice returned. Hello, Claire. The countdown reached 18 minutes. You asked for your missing time. Claire looked at the ceiling. Ward continued. So come get it. The elevator doors outside the chapel opened. Empty. Inside, every floor button was dark, except one. B2. Claire stared. Dr. Cole, who had just reached the chapel, frowned. This hospital doesn't have a B2. Claire looked at Rourke. Rourke's silence answered. Ward spoke one final time. 18 minutes, Night Glass. Come alone. Or let the hospital find out what happens when your heart stops. Claire's hand moved toward the scar beneath her clavicle. The countdown reached 1759, 1758, 1757, and somewhere beneath St. Joseph Medical Center, a machine that had been waiting 12 years turned itself on. 1742.
Claire Donovan stood in front of the open elevator. The button marked B2 glowed inside. St. Joseph Medical Center did not have a B2, at least not on any floor plan Claire had ever seen. Behind her, Admiral Samuel Rourke stood near the hospital chapel. Dr. Nathan Cole was beside him, Rebecca Hale, Daniel Krell, all of them watching. Nobody spoke. The countdown continued on the television screen. 1738, 1737, 1736. Claire stepped into the elevator. Rourke moved immediately. Claire. She turned. He walked toward her. Don't go down there. Claire looked at him for several seconds, then at the photograph still in her hand. The laboratory, Adrian Sayer, Marcus Vane, and herself. 6 months of her own life that existed in photographs, but not in her memory. You knew. Rourke stopped. I knew something had been built here. What? I was never given access. Claire almost smiled. You're an admiral? And you're finally beginning to understand that rank was never the highest level in this room. The elevator doors began to close. Rourke put his hand between them. They reopened. Claire, listen to me. No. The word was quiet, but final. For 12 years, I listened to you. Rourke's face tightened. You told me I was recovering. You were. You told me my memory loss came from trauma. Some of it did. Some? Claire stepped toward him. That's the problem, Sam. I don't know which parts of my life are mine anymore. Rourke lowered his voice. If you go down there, Ward will show you exactly what he wants you to see. Claire looked at the countdown. 1751. Then, maybe for once, I'll decide what I believe. The doors closed. Rourke remained on the other side. Claire was alone. The elevator descended. B1. The indicator paused, then went blank. Claire felt the elevator continue downward. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Farther than any hospital basement should have gone. She looked at her reflection in the metal doors. Blue scrubs, hospital badge, hair tied back. The woman in the reflection looked ordinary, a nurse at the end of a very long shift. Claire touched the scar beneath her left clavicle. For 12 years, she had believed it came from shrapnel. Now she knew someone had cut her open. The question was no longer who. The question was why. The elevator stopped. The doors opened. Red light. Claire didn't move. For 1 second, the corridor in front of her and the corridor inside her memory became the same place. Concrete walls, low ceiling, red emergency lighting, no windows. She heard breathing, not from the corridor, from 12 years ago. Then the lights changed, white. The illusion disappeared. The corridor was clean, modern, recently maintained. Claire stepped out. The elevator doors closed behind her. A speaker activated overhead. Welcome back. Elias Ward. Claire looked up. Where are you? Close. You've killed people. Pause. Have I? The blood bank technician. Not me. The man outside room 604. Also not me. Claire continued walking. Then who? Ward laughed softly. You still want one villain. Life was easier when there was one, wasn't it? Claire stopped. You called me here. Yes. Then stop performing. Silence. Claire looked down the corridor. 3 doors, all identical, no labels. Which one? The one you chose last time. Claire's jaw tightened. I don't remember. I know. The door on the left unlocked. Claire opened it. The room beyond was not a laboratory. It was an archive. Rows of metal shelves, boxes, hard drives, photographs, medical records. Hundreds of them. Claire walked slowly between the shelves. Names were printed on every box. Some she recognized. Most she didn't. military personnel, scientists, doctors, intelligence officers. Then she found her own. Donovan, Claire, E. 17 boxes. Claire stared at them. 17. Not one, not two. 17 boxes, documenting a part of her life she couldn't remember. She reached toward the first. Ward's voice came from behind her. "I wouldn't start there." Claire turned. The man standing in the doorway was not wearing the gray coat. Black shirt, dark trousers, late 50s, short gray hair, no visible weapon. But Claire recognized the eyes. Half a second at the hospital entrance had been enough. Elias Ward. He nodded. "Claire." She looked at his left wrist. No watch. "You brought Vane to the hospital." "No. You saw me arrive. With him." "Difference?" "A considerable one." Claire stepped closer. "Who was the man in the bed?" Ward looked at the boxes. "You already know." "Sayer." "Yes." "Adrian Sayer is alive?" Ward smiled faintly. "Not anymore." Claire's expression didn't change. "When did he die?" Ward looked at the countdown. 31 minutes ago. Room 604. The body. Claire understood. The dead man was Adrian Sayer. Then the man I spoke to was Adrian Sayer. He pretended to be Marcus Vane. For 12 years. Claire stared at Ward. "What?" Ward walked toward the archive shelf. "Marcus Vane died the night you remember." "No." "Yes. I spoke to him after. You spoke to Sayer." Claire shook her head. "I knew Marcus." "Did you?" Ward turned toward her. "Or did you know the version your reconstructed memory allowed you to recognize?" Claire felt anger rise. Finally. Clean. Useful. "Careful." Ward smiled. "There you are. Where is Marcus Vane's body?" "Behind door 2. Claire stared at him. "You're lying." "Probably." Ward tilted his head. "That's the difficulty now, isn't it?" The countdown appeared on a wall monitor. 13:04. Claire looked at it. "What happens at 0? Ward's expression changed. For the first time, the performance disappeared. "Your implant activates." Claire touched the scar. "What does it do?" "It depends on which version Sayer left inside you." "Which version?" Nightglass had 3 functions. Ward raised one finger. First, biometric masking. A second. Second, memory disruption. A third. He paused. Claire waited. And third? Storage. She stared at him. Ward pointed toward her chest. "You didn't leave the facility carrying a secret in your memory, Claire. You left carrying it in your body." On the 6th floor, Dr. Nathan Cole stood over Adrian Sayer's body. Rebecca held the ultrasound probe. Rourke watched from the corner. Cole looked at the screen, then again. "This doesn't make sense." Rebecca leaned closer. "What?" Cole pointed. "The device cavity." "What about it?" "It's larger than the device Claire found." Rourke stepped forward. "Meaning?" Cole looked at him. "Something else was implanted." "Where is it?" Cole slowly looked toward the floor. "It's gone." Rebecca stared. "Someone removed it." "Recently." "How recently?" Cole examined the incision. "Minutes." Rourke turned toward the door. Daniel Krell was gone. 11:46. Claire opened the first box. Inside was a medical consent form. Her signature appeared at the bottom. She read it twice. Voluntary participation. Cognitive resilience trial. Biometric encryption. Claire looked at Ward. "I volunteered." "Yes." "Why?" "Because Nightglass wasn't supposed to become a weapon." What was it supposed to be? Ward leaned against the shelf. A vault. Claire frowned. For what? Information too dangerous to store on a server. Put it inside a person. Not information. A key. Claire looked down at the form. Ward continued. Sayer designed a system that divided an encryption key across biological and digital components. Without the human component, the archive couldn't be opened. And the human component was me. Yes. Why? Because you were a trauma nurse. Claire almost laughed. That's your answer? It's the truth. Ward stepped closer. Your neurological testing was exceptional. Memory under stress, pattern recognition, resistance to interrogation, medical knowledge, operational experience. Claire looked at him. You studied me. No. Sayer did. And you? Ward's expression became unreadable. I was the man assigned to stop him if the study became something else. Did it? Yes. When? At 2:14 on October 17th. Claire became still. The missing 29 minutes. What happened? Ward looked toward the countdown. 10:58. Claire looked at it. What happens at 0? Ask Rourke. He's upstairs. No. Ward looked toward the door. He's behind you. Claire turned. Admiral Rourke stood in the doorway, a gun in his hand, pointed at Elias Ward. Step away from her. Ward smiled. Right on time. Claire looked at Rourke. You knew how to get down here. Rourke said nothing. You told me you'd never been given access. I lied. Claire nodded slowly. At least we're making progress. Rourke kept the weapon on Ward. Claire, come here. No. He's manipulating you. So are you. Claire, put the gun down. I can't. Why? Rourke looked at the countdown. Because Ward is not trying to save you. Ward laughed. And you are? Claire looked between them. 2 men, 2 histories, 2 versions of the same night. Neither deserved trust. So Claire did what she had always done. She looked for what neither wanted her to notice. Rourke was holding the gun in his right hand. His left thumb touched his index finger. Once. Claire saw it. Fear. Not of Ward, of the countdown. She looked at Rourke. What happens at 0? His silence answered too much. Ward smiled. Ask him what he did at 2:14. Claire looked at Rourke. Sam. Rourke's hand tightened around the weapon. Don't. What did you do? I made a decision. What decision? Claire. What did you do? Rourke closed his eyes for 1 second, then opened them. I ordered the room sealed. Claire stopped breathing. Ward said nothing. He didn't need to. Rourke continued. Sayer was trying to remove the key. For me? Yes. Why? Because he had sold access. To whom? We never found out. So you sealed the room. I had no choice. There are always choices. Not that night. Rourke's voice broke. If Sayer left with what was inside you, thousands of identities would be compromised. Agents, families, operations, people who didn't even know they were connected. Claire looked at him. So you locked 19 people inside. 18. Claire shook her head. 19. Rourke's face changed. He had not known. And Ward saw it and smiled. There it is. Rourke looked at him. You were inside. Ward nodded. Claire stared at Ward. Why? Because someone needed to make sure you survived. Who sent me? Ward looked directly at Rourke. Marcus Vane.
Silence. Claire's chest tightened. You said Marcus died that night. He did, but before he died, Ward continued quietly. He opened the door. Claire's mind flashed. Red lights, smoke, bodies, a hand, a door. 3 words, the 3 words she'd whispered to Sayre in room 604. Claire suddenly understood. They weren't a code. Ward shook his head. No. What were they? Rourke lowered the gun slightly. Ward answered. Something Marcus said to you. Claire closed her eyes, and for the first time in 12 years, the words came back with their meaning attached. You go first. Not a code, not a command, a promise. Marcus Vane had been injured. Claire had refused to leave him, and he had said the words, you go first. She had answered, not this time. The same 3 words she'd whispered in room 604. Not this time. Claire opened her eyes. The room around her blurred. Memory arrived, not gently. Red light, smoke, Marcus Vane on the floor, Sayre beside the console, Rourke's voice over the radio, seal the room, Claire screaming, Ward appearing from behind a service door, Marcus reaching for the manual release, Sayre holding a surgical device, then a gunshot. Claire turned toward Rourke. You shot me. Rourke's face collapsed. No. Claire touched the scar beneath her clavicle. You shot me. I shot the device. You hit me. I was trying to stop Sayre. Memory continued. Claire falling. Marcus dragging her. Ward opening the service passage. Sayre shouting. Then Marcus standing beside the door, holding it open. You go first. Claire shaking her head. Not this time. Marcus smiling, then pushing her through. The door closing. Claire screamed his name. The memory ended. She was back in the archive. Tears stood in her eyes, but her voice remained steady. Marcus Vane saved me. Ward nodded. Yes. And Sayre escaped through another route. Rourke looked at Ward. You knew? I suspected. Claire looked at the countdown. 05:11. Why erase my memory? Rourke answered, because the key couldn't be extracted while your conscious memory of the encryption sequence was disrupted. Claire stared. You didn't erase it to protect me. Rourke couldn't answer. You erased it to protect the key. Both. No. Claire shook her head. Don't make yourself feel better. The countdown reached 5 minutes. Ward looked toward her chest. We're out of time. What happens at 0? The implant attempts synchronization. With what? Ward looked around the archive. This. Claire stared at the shelves. Then stop it. I can't. Who can? Ward looked at her. You. On the 6th floor, Rebecca ran toward the elevator. Daniel Krell stood at the end of the corridor. In one hand, he held a small black device, the object removed from Sayre's chest. Rebecca stopped. Daniel, he smiled. You're a very good nurse. She stepped backward. What is that? The second half. Of what? His smile widened. The key. Rebecca reached for the emergency call button. Daniel raised the device. Every light in the corridor went out. 03:42. The archive monitors activated. Thousands of lines of encrypted text filled the screens. Claire looked around. What do I do? Ward pointed toward a metal console. 3 words. Claire stared at him. The words open it? No. They give you a choice. Rourke stepped closer. Claire, don't. She looked at him. Why? Because if the archive opens, people die? Maybe. And if it doesn't? Rourke said nothing. Ward answered. The truth dies. Claire laughed softly. Of course, the oldest trap in the world, safety or truth, as though people with power hadn't spent centuries pretending those were always opposites. She approached the console. A biometric sensor illuminated. 0291. Claire placed her hand on it. Nothing. Ward looked at her chest. The implant. Claire touched the scar.
The console beeped. Biological component detected. Then another message. Secondary component required. Claire looked at Ward. The device from Sayre. Ward's face changed. It's missing. Rourke turned. Daniel Krell. Claire looked at him. You know him? Not by that name. Then who is he? Rourke's answer came quietly. Sayre's son. 0197. The elevator opened. Daniel Krell entered the archive. Rebecca stood in front of him. Claire's eyes widened. Rebecca! Rebecca looked terrified, but alive. Daniel held the black device against her neck. Nobody moves. Ward raised his hands. Rourke pointed the gun. Daniel smiled. Admiral, put it down. Which thing? Daniel looked at the device. Your career? Your secrets? Your nurse? Rebecca closed her eyes. Claire looked at her. Rebecca. She opened them. Remember the school bus crash? Rebecca frowned. What? 3 years ago. Claire's voice remained calm. 42 children. Rebecca stared. Claire continued. You told me afterward you froze. I did. No. Claire shook her head. You found exits. Rebecca's breathing slowed. You found 3. Daniel noticed between them. Enough. Claire ignored him. You remember the 3rd exit. Rebecca's eyes moved toward the service door. Daniel noticed too late. Rebecca dropped. Rourke fired. The bullet struck Daniel's shoulder. The black device fell. Claire moved. She caught it before it hit the floor. Daniel collapsed. Ward kicked the weapon away. Rebecca crawled toward Claire. The countdown reached 0041. Claire placed the second device against the console. The screen changed. Key complete. Then, authorize release. Yes, no. Rourke shouted. Claire, no. Ward said nothing. Rebecca looked at her. What does release mean? Claire stared at the screen. Thousands of names, operations, secrets, evidence, 12 years of lies. Then she understood the question was never whether to expose everything. It was whether to let someone else decide for her again. She selected neither. Instead, she opened the system menu. Ward frowned. What are you doing? Claire looked at him. What nurses do, which is, read the instructions before touching anything. For the first time, Ward laughed. Claire found the archive permissions. The system wasn't one file, it was thousands. She selected the records connected to Nightglass, the medical trials, the deaths, the altered reports, her own file. Nothing else. Rourke stared. You can't selectively release classified material. Claire looked at him. Watch me. 0012. She authenticated. The screen asked for the verbal key. Claire closed her eyes. Marcus Vane. Red light. His hand pushing her toward the door. You go first. Her answer. The 3 words. Claire opened her eyes. Not this time. The countdown stopped. 001. Silence. Then the screen changed. Nightglass records released to authorized oversight channels. Archives sealed. The lights returned. Claire stood still. Her heart continued beating. Nothing exploded. No alarms. No dramatic collapse. Just the truth moving quietly toward people who could no longer pretend it didn't exist. 3 weeks later, St. Joseph Medical Center returned to normal, at least the version of normal hospitals are good at creating. The blood bank technician's family received the truth about his death. Daniel Krell survived. He was taken into federal custody. Adrian Sayre was finally buried under his real name. Admiral Samuel Rourke testified before a closed oversight committee. Elias Ward disappeared before anyone decided whether to arrest him or thank him. Claire didn't ask where he went. Some doors didn't need reopening. The Nightglass investigation became the largest classified medical ethics inquiry in decades. Most of the details never reached the public, but enough did. Enough for families to receive answers, enough for names to be restored, enough for 17 deaths and one forgotten sacrifice to finally exist somewhere other than Claire's nightmares. At 3:16 on a Monday morning, exactly 3 weeks after the night everything changed, Claire stood beside another hospital bed. An elderly woman was frightened before surgery. Claire adjusted her blanket. "Will you stay until they take me down?" Claire smiled. "Of course." The woman looked at her hospital badge. "Claire. Yes, that's a nice name." Claire looked down at it. For 12 years she had thought Claire Donovan was the life she built after Nightglass. Now she understood something different. Nightglass had been a name given to her by people who needed her to become something.
Lieutenant Donovan had been a title. Subject Donovan had been a number. But Claire was the name she had chosen to keep. The patient squeezed her hand. "Are you all right, dear?" Claire smiled. "Yes." And this time, she meant it. Outside the room, Dr. Nathan Cole waited with 2 cups of coffee. He handed her one. 20 units of O negative. Claire looked at him. "What?" "I counted." She laughed. "All 20? Twice? You're learning." They began walking toward the nurse's station. Cole glanced at her. "Can I ask you something?" "You can." "Those 3 words." Claire kept walking. "What did they mean?" She looked through the window as the first morning light appeared over the city. For a moment, she thought about Marcus Vane, the real Marcus Vane, a sealed door, a promise, and the life he'd given her by refusing to save himself first. Then she looked at Cole. "They meant someone once gave me another chance." Cole waited. Claire smiled faintly. "And it took me 12 years to understand what I was supposed to do with it." Her trauma pager activated. Claire looked down. "Incoming. 5 minutes." Cole sighed. "Coffee." Claire placed the untouched cup on the desk. "Later." "You always say that." "I know." She pulled on a fresh pair of gloves. The trauma doors opened, and Claire Donovan walked toward them. Not Nightglass, not a ghost, not a secret. A nurse, exactly where she had chosen to be.